I'm not gonna lie, when it came to official Transformers, 2018 was a bit of a disappointment. Let's take a quick look back at what I was saying about 2017 with Titan's Return. Not that it matters though, because last year was still pretty awesome for Transformers, giving us possibly the best Generations line we've gotten since it first started out. Titan's Return was filled with obscure G1 characters, and that was quite good. Now compare that to this year, where we had so many failures. For starters, Power of the Primes. Pretty much all of Power of the Primes. Volcanicus was a f***ing joke. The Titan Masters gave way to these rather bland pretenders. Several of the Legends class figures were with only 2 really standout releases, 3 if you count repaints. Abominus was fine, but filled with so many retools of other figures, so it was so hard to get excited about it. I mean, why the hell would they make it a retool of Silverbolt? Why would they make Hunger a repaint of Silverbolt? It's bloody ridiculous. There was one standout toy though, which I will get to later, but my point still stands. Power of the Primes was easily the weakest of the trilogy. Then you have Cyberverse. And yes, Studio Series was very, very good, but it was saving a lot of stuff for 2019 and 2020. I mean, look at what we're getting next year. We're getting the Starter Devastator, we're getting all the Revenge of the Fallen bots, we're getting some better repaints of existing characters. Compare that to what we got this year, which is Stinger, Bumblebee, and Optimus, and Megatron. They're really playing it safe. Not to say there weren't any stellar releases, but none of them really were good enough to even end up on this list as an honorable mention. It just kind of missed the mark by that much. So thank God my focus on this year was third party and Masterpiece, because if I hadn't been doing that, I probably would have been bored out of my mind. I thought this year switch it up a bit, do what everyone else is doing, and I've dipped my toe in enough, and I think that might be enough for the year. With that intro aside, I think I need to clarify something. I was going to do a top 18 video, but after reading some of the comments on Discord last year when I released mine, and also after seeing Fuse reasoning, I just realized not many people want to do top 18 things anymore. I know Transformers fan page wants to do one, but, you know, that's one person. Because if I were to do a top 18, I would have to really cut it down into a smaller video. I'd have to stop talking about the figures as much as I'd want to, because I do have quite a bit to say about each of them. And then also adding another one onto that, having to cut it down even further, no, I think 10 will do just fine. That said, I do at least want to mention number 18 to number 11 on this channel, so here is what they would have been. As well as that, on the screen right now will be the non-ranked honorable mentions. They would have been honorable mentions if I had done top 18, and they still kind of count as honorable mentions. And you can see there are a lot of figures. I should also preface that this list unfortunately won't have that many official figures on it, simply because there were a lot in the lower lists and the honorable mentions. But I got a lot of third-party stuff this year. It's just what I was collecting at the time. Don't worry, there will be a few official figures though, and they are definitely deserving of their spots. And with that all said and done, greetings Cybertronians, I'm DrLockdown, and today's diagnosis pertains to the top 10 purchases in Transformers of this year. And that is what I got this year, not what came out this year, because seriously, if it was only what came out this year, it would be a pretty short list.
10th place, DX9 Carry.
For the longest time, I was seriously thinking of tying this with the Power of the Primes Rodimus, and I even had a review ready for both of them. It was supposed to be a 2-part review system, and I was supposed to say, this one's great, but this one is also great. They're both really, really good. But after owning Power of the Primes Rodimus for a few months, I slowly started to stop liking him that much. I was really excited for him after the Hasbro event, after messing with him. He just seemed really, really good. But he just doesn't have lasting power, whereas DX9 Carry still remains a fantastic figure months later. He's an expensive little bugger for his size, clocking in at about 200 Australian dollars, but even then, he's still worth every penny. I mean, yes, his gun is a little lackluster, but the robot mode itself is brilliant. It even outclasses the alt mode, because the alt mode's also a bit whack as well. But when the robot mode is this good and this well articulated with all sorts of posing power and so much detail, you just can't put anything else on the list.
9th place, Black Mamba is nitrogen.
Contrary to popular belief, I don't hate all knockoffs. The only ones I really hate are the masterpiece knockoffs that are supposed to swindle regular consumers out of the official releases, or just be a replacement, but cheaper! Because why wouldn't you just get the original in that instance? And I also don't like mech fans toys, but that's personal bias. As I've stated before, you're totally allowed to like those, it's just not my thing. But why the hell is TF Source selling them out? I thought they didn't do knockoffs. Come on, man, have some standards. Most of the time I don't really get knockoffs though, simply because the official is readily available and cheaper, and often you can get upgrade kits for it and repro labels. But there wasn't really an opportunity for me to get Nitro Zeus when he first came out. He came out whilst I was on my New Zealand trip, and by the time I got back, he was long gone. And then getting him was a pain, because I ordered him off AliExpress, and then it got lost in transit, and when I tried to get my money back from Australia Post, they said, not our problem, and when I tried to get my money back from AliExpress, not our problem, so that left me $70 out of pocket. But thankfully, Saviour Toys had me covered with one left. I got the last one. But I was so glad to finally get this guy in hand, because he is just gorgeous. The lighter colour scheme and definitely the head sculpt really sell this figure. Honestly, it's one of the few times that I don't really care about the official anymore, because most of the time if I get a knockoff, I also kind of want the official. But in this instance, I just don't need it. It's just that bloody good. Besides, I think Repro Labels has me covered on the official front, although I have lost one of the sticker sheets. I might have to reorder it.
8th place, Fans Toys Spindrift.
Fans Toys has always been in a bit of an interesting spot third-party wise, because most of the figures that they release just haven't interested me, because they're so deep into that G1 aesthetic that they lack any energy. A lot of people say the same thing about the Takara ones, but you look at those, and there's something lifelike about them, even though they're toys based on cartoon models, but they feel energized, and a lot of Fans Toys releases just don't. However, occasionally, they will pull an amazing figure out of the design team. That happened with their Shockwave, which is easily better than the Masterpiece version, and it also happened with Spindrift, aka Sea Spray. I don't even care for Sea Spray that much as a character. I just saw the figure and I'm like, I gotta get that. I really gotta get that. It was actually one of the first figures I bought throughout the entire year, and long-time viewers may remember that it was broken at a meetup. I didn't break it, and another guy broke it because they were ham-fisted with the waist section. So I already know who's on this side of the mask because I met him at Supernova, but who's under this one?
Well, I broke this. Actually, Megatron broke this.
It is a little complicated, but compared to some other figures on this list, it's actually quite simple. I think what really sells it is the design, because I was never a fan of Fatty Sea Spray, and many people say that's that he wasn't G1 and that's what his character is, but I like this athletic approach. It's really cool. You can even move this down if you like, which is something I actually did on a Lego version I did years ago, so, you know, I guess I can claim credit for that, not really.
7th place, DX9 Gewalt.
I cannot tell you how long I've wanted this toy for. It's got to be at least a couple of years. Was he released a couple of years ago? Regardless, ever since I saw him, I was instantly hooked on him. His transformation was a little bit parts for me, yes, but it was fun, it was ingenious, and the robot mode, the tank mode's a bit wonky, yes, but the jet mode was great, and oh god, look at this robot mode, it is so sexy. There's so many options you can do with the wings and the shoulders and everything, and the transformation's so fun, and I am so glad to finally own it. I was holding out for when the Fans Toys version came out, because I knew that several people would offload theirs and replace it with the Fans Toys one, but I always wanted this guy. Unfortunately, I didn't have to wait that long because he was there on Facebook for a rather decent price, and I said, I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna get that right now. And so I did, and it was good. Very, very good. DX9 has proven to be a really fun company in terms of transformations, and I can't wait to try out some of their unique toy stuff later down the line, because they are the same company. Now, if only they could funnel some of that genius engineering and great sculpt work into their Legends figures, because they just aren't doing it for me.
6th place, Iron Factory Tyrant's Wings Green.
On the topic of DX9 Legends figures, their Seekers just don't do it for me. They're just overly complicated for the size, they're too big, they're lifeless in their sculpts, But look at this Iron Factory Seeker mold. It's got so much nuance to it. The design is dynamic and the paintwork's great, and also it's probably a plus that they made my favourite Seeker, who also got gender swapped this year surprisingly, which I'm perfectly fine with. It's funny how I may have actually predicted that. I'm not sure if people are actually complaining about this, but if you are, stop complaining about Hotlink being gender swapped. I wouldn't mind if they continue to do this with more pre-established obscure G1 characters. Hell, Acid Storm would be a nice change of oh, right, he's just the same as normal. But I'm getting sidetracked. Iron Factory has been killing it lately with all of their releases. They've been hammering release after release after release, and so many of them ended up on the honorable mentions list. I just wish more of them had ended up higher up. But I was mainly going for Masterpiece this year. Next year's going to be incredibly tough competition for Legends companies, because you've got 7 companies competing. 8 if you stupidly count Papa Toys, 9 if Mr. Moon gets off their ass, and 10 if Toy World decides to actually continue on this scale. But at the very least, Iron Factory's got something releasing every single month, and they're all stellar releases. Regardless, Acid Storm here stands out as one of their top releases. He's just that good. He doesn't do anything particularly new and interesting, but what he does so well, and I am so glad to have him.
5th place, X2 Toys Giga Raiden.
Honestly, this guy was a real surprise for me because he was an impulse purchase. I was scouring around Robo Toys and there weren't that many Legends in stock at the time, so I thought, I'll give this guy a shot, and I am very glad that I did, because he is one of the most fun Optimus Primes I've handled in ages. The transformation is simple but effective, the robot mode is utterly perfect, it's got amazing posing power with that ab crunch, the waist swivel, and even the ankle tilts here. If I had to describe him, he is a spiritual successor to the Generation/Classics Deluxe Optimus Prime, which in hindsight was pretty terrible. I'm sorry, Grandmother, for guilt-tripping you into buying it for me when I was a kid. It was not a very good toy, and I probably shouldn't have done that. It was a very bad decision. In a world where so many toys are now trying to squeeze every last drop out of the third-party masterpiece G1 aesthetic before it dries up for good, this Optimus Prime is just interested in being a fun toy at a reasonable size and a reasonable price, and I'm really glad for it. Funnily enough, it's actually the same price as Fans Toy Spindrift at most places, so, you know, they're both going for the same thing. Simple, fun, and not too G1. And then you get the stickers involved, and it's like, whoa, what's this? And I guess he also comes with a tiny little figure, which is alright, I guess. I really wish they would do more figures in this style, because they're just that fun. Unfortunately, no one really cares about this scale, because it's not Chug, it's not Masterpiece, and it's not Legends. This is why I really don't care about scale, because you miss out on really good toys, and you end up buying toys that aren't that great, but are better scaled.
4th place, Mastermind Creations Kultur.
Ah yes, this right here is another toy that I am so happy to finally have in my collection, because when I first saw this at a meetup years ago, I really wanted him. Actually, looking at that clip, it might have only been 1 year ago. Would it have been 1 year ago? No, it wouldn't have been 1 year ago. Actually, yeah, it would have been 2 years ago. Oh, I don't know, I'm really losing track of time. Time's going pretty quickly. Regardless, I finally got the reissue of this guy, and he really lives up to the hype that I had. Surprisingly, he's not the most complex of figures on this list. In spite of this really clean robot mode, he doesn't go through that much to get to the vehicle mode, probably because it's an alien vehicle mode and they can take a lot of liberties. But he just does everything so well. The design, the articulation, the transformation, the head sculpt, oh, that mask is so good, it's so awesome. I don't really feel the need to get the full DJD unless it's the Iron Factory ones, because hey, I'm a sucker for Iron Factory stuff. But this guy really stands out as one of the highlights of the year, and it's another figure that I'm so glad to finally have in my collection. Although, is he Masterpiece? Not really, he's more like a leader figure, because MMC doesn't really do Masterpiece, it's more Chug scaled, and I'm happy with that. I don't need a Tarn that's this big.
3rd place, Iron Factory War Giant.
Yes, I'm aware I was pretty lax with reviews this year, but I am really glad I got to review this guy, because completing him was easily one of the best things I did all year. I've never been so excited for completing a combiner before. Most of the time, Hasbro ones were like, okay, I can wait a bit until TF Source finally ships them over to Australia in a stack. But this guy, I had to get this guy completed. Now, full disclosure, I didn't get all of it from Robo Toys. I got one final set on eBay because it was sold out. But eventually, when I finally completed this set, it was just brilliant. Everything about this guy is awesome, from the design, to the robot modes, to the vehicle modes, to the transformation, aside from some stress issues, to shockwave compatibility, to the head sculpt, to the colors, to everything. By God, this is one of the best combiners on the market, and it's easily the best Bruticus on the market. I don't think there is another Bruticus that is this good, because, well, can you pose another Bruticus as well as this? Are the other Brutici as solid as this? Don't think so. So, yeah, he wins because he's amazing.
Second place, Takara Masterpiece MP36 Megatron.
Yeah, man, I told you there'd be some official toys on the list, albeit we're only in the top 2 now, but don't worry, the top 1 will be official. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have this figure, but I couldn't pass it up. It was actually quite affordable because the box was damaged. Oh no, mint in seal box collectors beware! And then it got sent to the wrong place thanks to Australia Post. Thanks, Australia Post. My friend was freaking out on the train whilst delivering it to me. Wow, great job, stupid. I am so happy that Masterpiece Megatron showed me how good official toys can be, because God knows Power of the Primes wasn't doing that very well. Hopefully Siege will bring back some of that magic that Titan's Return had, but for now, Masterpiece Megatron on his own is bloody fantastic. I don't think he released this year, but he definitely reminded me that third party isn't everything. Everything about this guy is just perfection. The paintwork is great. Also, he's a second run, so he doesn't actually have paint chipping, which is brilliant. The transformation is genius. I find myself transforming this so many times. The articulation is on point. The sculpt work is great. He doesn't look like a flat cartoon image because they've got so many greebles and details here. It just works really, really well. I think this might be one of the last great Masterpiece figures before they turn everything into a generic toon-based mess. I just can't get into MP44. He just doesn't look that good. Whereas Megatron, oh, Megatron, he looks brilliant, and I am so glad to have him in my collection. In fact, for a few months he actually overtook both Feral Queen and Dead End as my favourite Transformers in my collection. But that was then changed when I finally got the #1 spot.
First place, Hasbro Power of the Primes Predaking.
Oh no, the MMC crowd is going to hate on me and dislike this video into oblivion. Honestly, I don't give a shit, because quite frankly, this is my favorite toy in my entire collection, because he may not be the best toy, but he's just so much fun. The flaws that he does have are derpy and remind me of some of the favorite memories of Transformers that I have. The animal modes are pudgy and hilarious, the robot modes are actually quite good, and dear god, this combined mode, oof. It's one of the only combiners I know of that has the same solidity as Iron Factory War Giant. In fact, I'd say he's a little bit more solid. Sure, he's not the heaviest combiner, but he's very solid. He feels very solid, and there are very few hollow parts. The only hollow part really being the back here. But I'm sure some third-party kit will be able to fix that. You may notice that he hasn't been stickered, and that's because I'm waiting for the DNA design upgrade kit to arrive, and then I'll sticker him afterwards. Also, I lost the stickers. How stupid of me. That aside though, he's just so satisfying to play with. Every ratchet feels super solid. He holds up incredibly well. If he had a sword, I'd basically call him perfect, and he will have a sword soon, because DNA Design is going to release their kit, and I'm going to have it shipped, and it's going to be awesome. Honestly, it's almost as if every single cent of Power of the Primes that was saved, all the life drawn out of every figure making it drab, was funneled into this sexy beast. Christ, this guy is awesome. Just everything about him is brilliant. I just don't get how people could prefer Devastator over this. Devastator is a hollow, lifeless mess with so many issues in the articulation department. But Predaking, f***ing Predaking is amazing. What are you doing with your life? As much as I've loved collecting third party this year, Predaking has reminded me that official toys still rock. And I am really happy for Siege this year, because some of the love that Predaking got is going into all those figures, and it's going to be a fantastic year. And with that, I am finally done. I think this year, 2019, I'm going to focus on Legends collecting, because I'm almost done with my official Hasbro stuff, and Iron Factory's releasing a bunch of stuff, and Magic Square's releasing a bunch of stuff, and Hot Soldiers is finally getting off the ground. It's all becoming a bit of a mess, honestly, but it's a fun mess, and there are lots of Legends to collect, and I cannot wait for them. I'm gonna have to start being more selective though, because there are doubles of characters and collecting every third-party mold is going to be pretty impossible. So, I'm not gonna get everything from now on. I thought that'd be a thing I could do. Get all the molds from third-party Legends, just like with Hasbro, but nah, not gonna happen. But until then, I've got some great ideas for videos. Hopefully I'll get them done before the end of the holidays and when I will not have as much time to do them. But until then, see you next time, and enjoy collecting this year. Just remember, we're all in this fandom together. Don't judge people for collecting things that you don't like. Whether it's official, whether it's Takara, whether it's G1 Masterpiece, whether it's third party, whether it's knockoffs. We're all in this fandom together, and we all enjoy collecting toys. So why hate on anyone for that? Until then, see ya!